there's only so much happiness that you can tolerate for so long, right? But happiness is almost like a muscle. It's something that you have to work to accept more of in your life. It takes work to expand your capacity to feel happiness, to be able to stay there for longer. Because sometimes when we get too happy, it feels kind of weird, right? It's like, I'm not used to this. I don't really even know what to do with this. Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. So I had an amazing week and there was a couple of things that I wanted to tell you about. So first of all, this week, there's a TV show that is being rebooted, as so many of them are nowadays. This one is called Behind the Music, and they're updating some of the episodes that they've done in the past. And the one that was released this past week was about New Kids on the Block. And of course, if you know me, you know that I'm like totally obsessed with New Kids on the Block. So as soon as it came out, it was, one of the first things that I did the day that it came out. And there was a line that one of the guys said that totally just hit me like a ton of bricks. They were talking about when they were really popular back in the day. They were just working like crazy. They basically were on tour for 4 years straight. And he said we were working so hard, but our spirits weren't being refreshed. And that just hit me so hard because I feel like a lot of us do the same thing. We work and we work and we work and, we come home and do a lot of chores, do all of the grocery shopping, all the normal things that we have to do. But are we spending time having our spirits refreshed? Is there something that you do every single day or maybe every single week that makes you feel refreshed in your heart and in your soul? I really hope the answer is yes. I took a meditation challenge last month, and so I've been meditating every day just for like 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of the day, and it makes such a huge difference. I didn't think that just 5 or 10 minutes out of my day could really change everything, but it really, really does. So the other thing that I wanted to tell you about and what I'm sharing with you today is I did a workshop last week called I'm an INFJ, What Now? A lot of people ask me that specific question. They say, okay, I found my personality type and now I don't know what to do. Like, what's the next step? So I wanted to bring all of that together into a workshop, and it was such a great workshop, such an amazing space that I wanted to share it with you here now. So let's take a listen. All right. Well, welcome everybody. So glad that you're here. So before we get started, I want to ask you a couple of questions. So I want you to just close your eyes for a second and take a deep breath. and think about, what did you come here tonight to hear? What message does your soul really need right now? What is it that you're looking for? What message do you need? You can open your eyes now. With everything that's going on in the world, there's so much, and it's just so easy for us to get lost and confused, especially as INFJs. We soak up everybody else's emotions. We soak up all of their feelings. And it's so easy for us to get lost in all of the fear, all of the worry, and then even more in the comparison game, the shame, the guilt. It's always those negative emotions that are amplified. So it's easy to lose sight of what you're feeling and what you need. And tonight, we're going to reconnect to what it is that you need. So as we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about me, just in case you're not that familiar with me. Maybe you're new here. If so, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Sarah Kuhn. I'm a writer and a coach. You may know me from Instagram as INFJ Woman. That's my Instagram. That's where you can find me anywhere, is INFJ Woman. I write a blog that's at infjwoman.com. I write that blog every single week, usually, most of the time. I also have a weekly podcast that's called The Quiet Ones. Both of those are focused and designed to help INFJs, especially women. Men are welcome too. But I called it INFJ Woman because I'm an INFJ and I'm a woman, and I thought those are the people that I can speak to the most and that I can help the most. So my blog and my podcast, they're both designed to help INFJs who are struggling in their life, who want to know more about their personality and want to learn from the perspective of an INFJ, and who want to grow beyond where they are right now. I started my blog first because I was an INFJ and I just figured it out, and I was struggling. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety and an eating disorder. And that happened when I was working at my dream job, something that I had worked 10 years to get. And I thought, this is what's supposed to make me happy, and yet I'm completely miserable. And I wanted to know why I was so miserable, and I wanted to know how to feel better. So I write my blog and I share my podcast because I love to help people. I do this work because it really lights me up. It's a passion of mine that's growing into a business, but not quite there yet. I have several workshops and I've done some courses in the past. And I want to be upfront and really clear with you guys. I absolutely have an offer for you at the end of this workshop. But we're going to focus on the workshop tonight, because this workshop, we're going to focus on it right now because there's so much information here. It is a standalone thing all by itself. You're going to get an amazing transformation tonight, just for showing up. So whether you buy anything or not, that's totally fine. You're going to get a transformation anyway. This workshop, there's so much information. I'm really confident that you're going to feel like this is such a great use of your time. And I hope that you'll want to work with me moving forward, but if not, that's totally fine. So right now, let's talk about happiness, right? Happiness is like this big concept that a lot of people kind of shy away from talking about it because most people don't even know what it means. But we're going to look at it from a perspective of what you feel on an everyday basis, how your life is in general. So
The reason that you're looking into your personality type more times than not, it's because there's something going on in your life that's like a big thing. Like I said, for me, I was diagnosed with depression, I had an anxiety disorder, and I was struggling on a day-to-day basis. I needed a change. I wanted to be happy. I didn't know what happiness was. I just wanted to feel better than how I was feeling. So understanding was the first step for me. And in that understanding, there was also this understanding of, myself, but an understanding of where I was at in my life. And I'm sorry, I just heard something. I thought it was thunder, but I think maybe it's a motorcycle. It kind of scared me. That's one of the fun things about living in town. But when you understand your personality, you understand, more about yourself, and then you understand why you're happy and why maybe you're not so happy. So let's talk about where happiness comes from. The majority of us, we have this happiness set point in our lives. It's what you feel on a day-to-day basis, right? It's how you generally feel. There might be some things that make you feel happier, but even on the days where there's something that makes you feel happy, there's usually something else that brings you back to your set point of happiness, right? One of my friends, we've been talking about this a little bit because she's starting a business that focuses on joy. And so she asked me, what do you do to feel happiness in your life? And I was like, well, I like to go to concerts. I love New Kids on the Block, as you can see from behind me. I talk about New Kids on the Block a lot because that's what makes me happy, right? That's the thing that I look forward to. I love going to concerts. I love connecting with my friends at those concerts. And then it's something to look forward to. And there's a lot of joy that comes from looking forward to something, right? But then there's also like this time after the concert, we call it post-concert depression, because it's like you had all this joy of looking forward to this thing, and then it was like there was a peak at the thing, and then after it's over, it's like, oh, what do we do now? Like there's like this dip in happiness until you can come back up to your normal life, and normal life is just kind of like, it's okay. It's not great, I don't really feel that good. So I was talking to my friend about like, what do I do normally? I get coffee in the morning. It used to be that a $6 cup of coffee would make me feel happy, but now it's just kind of normal because I do it every single day. But one of the things that I realized too is there's only so much happiness, so much joy that we can tolerate in our lives before there's this resistance that pulls you back down, right? So you think about those days when you wake up feeling amazing and something really good happens. Maybe you get some good news. Maybe you get some money that you weren't expecting. Maybe you ordered something that you've been waiting for and it finally gets there. I bought a Keurig coffee machine, and it's like this Tiffany green color, and it's like super cute. And I was looking forward to buying it for a while because I was kind of planning and waiting for it to go on sale. And so when I bought it, I was like, oh, this is super cool. And then I put it on my counter and I'm like, okay, so the happiness is kind of gone now. Like, what do I do now? Or maybe there's even something else that almost like, you're feeling good and then it just knocks you right back down to feeling not so good. There's only so much happiness that you can tolerate for so long, right? But happiness is almost like a muscle. It's something that you have to work to accept more of in your life. It takes work to expand your capacity to feel happiness, to be able to stay there for longer. Because sometimes when we get too happy, it feels kind of weird, right? It's like, I'm not used to this. I don't really even know what to do with this. So where does that happiness set point come from? How does that even start? Well, this ties a lot back into your personality. We have to look at where you started off as a human being, right? I call this the habit of being you, because a lot of our personality, a lot of our everyday life, it comes from habits, right? So you think about your earliest ages, from the ages of 0 to 8, our brains are like a sponge. We soak up a lot of information from any of the people who are prominent in our life during that time. So you think about your parents, from, you start going to school. I started going to school when I was 6 because I started in the first grade, but I know that kids now start going earlier. One of my friends who just moved out of Boston was telling me that her daughter started in like pre-kindergarten, and then she went to kindergarten and then first grade. So I don't even know how. You would have to be like, what, 4 years old when you start school nowadays. So from the ages of 0 to 8 is, a big time when you're impacted by all this information. So there could be several teachers in your life. Maybe you were raised by your grandparents, or your aunts and uncles had a big impact on your life. Any of those type of people. The age of understanding really doesn't come in until about 8 to 10 years old. And that's when you're able to start thinking about things more, to start reasoning things out. You don't just take what people say to you and just soak it up. You start to think about it, maybe reject some of it too. So in those younger ages, you learn how to behave. You just take what your parents say, and there's probably not a lot of resistance there. Maybe in some things, but they tell you how to behave. They tell you to stand up straight and to tie your shoes, and this is how you're supposed to act. They're even going to tell you how to walk, how to eat. I became a vegetarian, have always been a vegetarian, because when I was learning how to eat, when I was 2 or 3 years old, my parents were vegetarian. And so even though they went back to eating meat later in their life, it always stuck with me. I never wanted to eat meat. I've always been a vegetarian. But you learn a lot of how to behave, and a lot of things that your parents say to you are things like, don't talk in class, don't be so sensitive, don't wear your heart on your sleeve, don't be too angry, don't be too honest either, don't tell people about the family, don't share too much about yourself. Don't tell people about your faults. These are all things that my parents said to me. And we soak all of that up. So a lot of who we become as people is learned behavior, and we get so good at pleasing everybody else that we don't even know who we are. And a lot of this impacts us in ways that are they're like subconscious, almost unconscious. We don't even realize how we're reacting to things. We don't realize why we have the beliefs that we have. Some things are incredibly important and affect us in really big ways. So when I was young, my mom was either going to college or working at night. She went to college for a long time because she could only take a couple of classes a semester, so it took her a long time to get through college. But I was the responsible one in my family. I have 3 siblings, so I was the responsible one. My brother is 10 years younger than me, so I was taking care of him while she was at school. And I learned just from observing her behavior that when she came home and the house was a mess and dinner hadn't been cooked and there was laundry to do, she was very unhappy. Sometimes she would scream and yell. Sometimes she would just give us this look. And sometimes she would say things like, do I have to do everything? Like, does nobody else help? Am I the only one who can do anything here? And that for me was like super uncomfortable, right? I didn't like that. I didn't want to have to experience that anymore. And so after experiencing that a little bit, I was like, okay, how can I fix this problem? And this was really like an unconscious thing for me. It wasn't like me sitting there reasoning it out. I can only reason it out looking back at it, right? So I realized very quickly that if I did the dishes and vacuumed the floor and did the laundry and cooked dinner, when she came home, she wasn't angry. Sometimes she would even say thank you. Sometimes she would say, hey, that was really nice that you did that. But at the very least, she wasn't angry. So for me, I learned that in order to be loved and appreciated in my house, I had to earn it. It wasn't something that was just freely given. It was something that I had to earn, right? So a lot of these types of things are the behaviors that we learn when we're so young, when we don't even understand what's going on. I very passionately believe that you're born with whatever personality type that you have, right? But I also believe that a lot of learned behaviors influence who you become as a person. So we end up with our personality as a combination of who we are and the habits that make up our personality type, right? So we have habits that are like what our parents tell us. And then we have habits of like people pleasing, like is, what I learned when you have to earn love. And we don't know where they come from. We just know that this is what we do. And then, you get to a place in your life and you're like, I'm really unhappy. Like, why am I unhappy? And then you start looking at these things and you're like, ooh, people pleasing really isn't that great of a thing. Why do I do that? Where did that come from? And that's when you start digging into all of this stuff, right? And you realize that there's a lot of stuff that you have to sort through. And just like when you pick up emotions from other people, you pick up habits from other people too. So I like to tell this story about one of my friends gave me this great visualization, I guess. We as INFJs, we pick up emotions from other people, right? And when you're not really aware of what you're doing, you just sort of pick things up and you carry them. And I think about it like your head as being like a bowl. You pick up, maybe your coworker is angry. And so you put that in there, and you go to the grocery store and people are irritated because there's too many people. And so you put that in there. And then maybe you come home and your kids are screaming and they're fighting. And so you put that in there. And maybe your husband's irritated or your wife is irritated because the kids are screaming. And so you put that in there. And then you get really overwhelmed and you're like, oh, what's going on? And you're irritated and angry and you're like, I don't want to feel this way. Where did all of this come from? And so you have to like look at the bowl and look at all of this stuff that's in it and then take them out one by one and say, hey, this irritation does not belong to me. That's totally fine. I can put it down. Doesn't belong to me. I don't need to be irritated. Oh, hey, this angry, that was not me either. That was somebody else. I don't need to carry that around with me. I can put it down. That's totally fine. You have to do that with your head, right? To empty out all of the emotions from everybody else. But you also have to do it with your personality, because we have so many habits that belong to other people that it takes sitting down and analyzing those habits to say, does this belong to me? Is it good for me? Does it work for me? Or is there something else? Maybe I could put this down. Maybe the people pleasing isn't really that great. Maybe I take it to some kind of extreme. Maybe that's not how you get love in your life. So maybe I could put it down, or at least tone it down a lot. It doesn't need to be an overwhelming force in my life, right? So we talk about happiness, right? We come back to this concept of happiness. And we talked about how you have a happiness set point in your life, something where you feel comfortable. You have this good thing that happens to you And then something happens that kind of pulls you back to the normal feeling. It's like a resistance where your brain is like, no, I'm not used to feeling good. I'm used to feeling blah. I'm used to feeling okay. I'm used to feeling like semi-bored, but kind of content in being bored. I was talking about New Kids on the Block earlier, and I was watching, they were on Behind the Music that just got a reboot, and their episode just got released today. It's on like Paramount Plus, one of the apps that you have to pay for. But one of them said something that he said that they were working so much when they were young, like back in the day. And he said it was all just work and our spirits weren't being refreshed. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. How much time do we spend when we're working, we're doing chores and running errands and we're doing things for other people, and we're not spending any time on ourselves? We're not spending time feeding ourselves or refreshing our spirits. How many times? How many of you feel that way? Type a 1 in the chat if you feel that way. If you feel like you really haven't been refreshed, or if you want to increase your happiness set point, if that's something that feels like it's something that you really need to do. Yeah, I see a lot of 1s. That resistance that you feel to that happiness, that is really just your ego that's telling you, listen, this is not usual for you. This isn't normal. Normal for you is this like so-so feeling, the kind of bored but sort of content. That's normal. I'm reading this book that's called How to Do the Work, which is an amazing book. I absolutely love the majority of it. And it talks about your ego and how anything that you say about yourself that starts with I is your ego, right? So a lot of the stories that we tell about ourselves, like I'm not happy, or I'm not good at writing, or I'm not very good at small talk. I'm not a good friend. I'm not good at making friends. I'm not good at having friends. All of those things, that's your ego that's pulling you back down into resistance. It's pulling you back down into that so-so feeling. So I want to show you pretty quickly and pretty easily how to expand your joy right now. We can do it right now. And it's really, really easy and really simple when you think about it. So what you have to do is you envision a circle around you. I like to think about the Twilight books, or the movies weren't really that great, but if you read the books, you know that in like the last book, the main character, Bella, she had this circle that was around her that she could push out for other people. But right now we're just going to think about you, how there's like this circle around you, and maybe it's your favorite color. It doesn't have to be a color. It can just be there. It could be like a bubble. And imagine that circle being filled up with joy, being filled up with happiness. Think about the last time that you were really, really feeling joy, the last place that you were. Try to tap into that joy and practice really feeling it, really soaking it in. It takes a little bit of practice, but when you think about it, you can put yourself in that place. You don't need somebody else putting you in that place. You don't need an outside force. You don't need to go to a concert. You don't need to be on a cruise. You don't need to go to the beach. You don't need somebody to bring you a present or, to go somewhere else. It can just be here with you right now, just by you thinking about it. but it kind of feels a little bit hard to sustain, right? Because you really have to focus on it. You really have to think about the memories. You have to think about what makes you happy and what brings you joy. And it kind of feels a little bit weird, maybe. It feels like there's some resistance. It feels like, I don't know about this. Maybe you're kind of feeling like this is a little bit woo-woo, like I'm not really into this kind of thing. The first time that I did this exercise, I was feeling kind of like that, like this feels icky. This just doesn't feel normal for me. And it's not normal because you're not used to doing that kind of stuff, right? So that's when your ego jumps up and they're like, hold on, you don't usually do this. This feels weird, right? Like you need to go back to feeling normal, which is, and your normal is, remember, it's like that so-so that's like, ugh. It's like, okay, but not great. So it takes a little bit of work to expand your feeling of joy. And it takes work to be able to sustain it too. I never thought about that up until recently, that it feels weird to be happy for too long, right? It feels like strange when you're just happy for no reason. It seems to me like when I feel happy for no reason, it's usually when I'm in the car and for some reason I have this thing that happens every once in a while. I'm in the car, usually I'll be driving down a road that's like covered with trees. I remember this one specific road when I lived in Charlotte that I would drive down and I would get this feeling a lot. Maybe it has something to do with the trees, I don't know. But the trees were so tall that they cover the road like a canopy. There is a road here that I travel up and down a lot, quite a bit. And the trees do the same thing. They're these really tall trees and they cover the whole road. And it's just something about the sunshine that comes through the trees. And it gets me thinking about what an amazing place I'm in. Like, how fortunate am I to get to live in this great place? How fortunate am I? I have this great job that maybe is not like, the day job that I have is not what I want, but it's great. I make more money than I've ever made in my life. I have a nice car, I live in a nice place, and once you start thinking about that, it's like, wow, I really feel good. This is great. It's like that circle of joy around you, right? You're like, oh, soaking up all the gratitude. This just feels so good. And then inevitably there's like somebody who pulls out in front of you and you're like laying on the horn. That's Boston for you. That's Boston. But it's like you can't sustain that feeling. I was practicing today, sustaining that feeling, being in that energy. And it was like I just kept feeling this resistance. And then I saw on Instagram, one of my friends posted this song on Instagram. And I don't even know what it is. I have to pull up my music to tell you what it is. It's called, what is it called? Hopefully it doesn't start making noise. It's called I'd Really Love to See You Tonight. It's from like the 1970s. But it was one of those songs that made me think about listening to, my mom used to listen to soft rock music like way back in the day. And it was one of those songs that would come on this radio station that we listened to in Wichita, where I grew up. It's called B98 FM. And I just remember like being in the car and, having those feelings of like joy and happiness and really gratitude, really just drinking it in. And for some reason, that song just made me so happy. And I'm like, okay, I'll just play that song all day long. And as long as that song is playing, then I can focus on gratitude. And that's all that matters. So we have all of these habits that make up part of our personality type, right? You have what you're born with, and then you have a lot of this learned behavior. And a lot of those habits are what keep you feeling stuck. You're looking for some kind of change, right? That we talked about. You're looking for a change, like happiness and by England Dan and John Ford Coley. Yes, that's the song. That's the song. So these habits, they keep you feeling stuck and you're looking for some kind of change, right? You want happiness. Maybe you want some more confidence in your life. Maybe you're looking for courage. Maybe you want to find a new job, and finding a new job takes a lot of courage sometimes. Maybe it's love that you're looking for, maybe a romantic partner, maybe it's just more self-love, which leads to confidence, right? Type a 1 in the chat if you're feeling stuck in your life right now. If there's like some kind of change that you want to make, but you don't know how to make the change, and you just feel like, yeah, you need some answers, right? You don't feel like yourself, but maybe you don't even know who you're supposed to be. I had that feeling for the longest time. There was so much that came from my family, and being from kind of a big family, there was a lot going on in our house all the time. I have 2 sisters, both of them are extroverts. And then, like I said, my brother was 10 years younger than me. So, you know, he was young and loud. And then with both of my parents, everybody was coming and going all of the time. And there was always something. And I was so good at catering to other people that when it came time for me to get my own apartment and to be out on my own, which was really when I moved to Charlotte. When did I move to Charlotte? I was probably like 24 years old when I moved to Charlotte. I was like, okay, who am I supposed to be now that there's nobody else around me? Who am I supposed to be? I don't even know. Like, I don't know who I even want to be. I felt like super weird because I would say that to some of my friends and they're like, you don't know who you are? Is that like this existential crisis that everybody goes through? Which kind of, I guess it was. But part of that process is to break some of these habits of being you. Is it Jacqueline says, I don't feel stuck. I feel like I'm waiting. Oh, I felt that too. I feel like I'm waiting for somebody else, waiting for something to happen, waiting to get married. That's been my life for real. Because I never wanted to work. Not that I wasn't like, you know, driven or anything like that. It was just like I wanted to be a mom, and that was my plan. Like, I'm going to get married young and to have kids young, so it can kind of be like we're growing up together, so I can relate to them. Wouldn't that be great? And then I didn't meet somebody in high school, and I thought, well, I should go to college. You know, my parents say I should go to college, and I didn't know what else to do. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to college. And then I spent 10 years in college, and I didn't meet anybody. And I'm like, oh, I guess I have to get a job now. So now I've been working for 10 years, and I'm like, how do you meet people? And then the pandemic, and it's like, not good. Esther says, I went through that when I moved away from my family at 25. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So part of the next step, our workshop tonight is called I'm an INFJ, what now? And the next step is breaking the habits of our learned behavior. It's separating that learned behavior from who we really are, who we really want to be, who we were born to be. So that means stop living to please other people, stop giving more than what you have, stop doing things that you hate doing just because you're used to doing them or you do them to make other people happy. Stop being someone that you're not. Start practicing more compassion for yourself. Start showing yourself more love and understanding. Start showing up for yourself. So how do you do those things? Well, I have 3 key things that you need to do. So the first one is you have to get past the fear. And the fear, I like to call it resistance, because a lot of times it feels like resistance, right? You want to make a change. Maybe you even identified the change, right? And then there's something like your ego that's pulling you back, that's saying, this doesn't feel comfortable. You're not really good at this. You don't know how to do this. You need to just go back, right? For me, that comes up as like, shouldn't I have all the answers? Shouldn't I know all of the things that I'm supposed to do, right? Because I'm like 35 years old. I'm going to be 36 in just a couple of months. And that's kind of scary for me to say that out loud. But it's like, shouldn't I have all this figured out by now? Shouldn't I know what I'm supposed to do? But that whole I don't know is a really great place to start. That's the part where you're saying, okay, I don't know, so let me figure it out. Most people never get to the I don't know. They stay in the I'm fine the way that I am. It's okay that my life is just blah. It's okay that like my dad said, I never want to go anywhere that I've never been before. Like, I'm fine with everything just being the way that it's always been. That's good for me. That's not good for me. That's that's not what I want. A lot of the fear and the resistance that we feel towards making these changes, it comes down to being afraid of rejection. A lot of it comes down to, making changes and being afraid that they're not going to work, being afraid that you're not going to be accepted for the person that you really are. That's a big thing for me. When I talk to people like my parents or my friends that I've known for a long time, I had this realization that they know the person that I used to be. And they have this vision of me that they think that I should be. And they don't really know the real me, because I've been away from them so long and I've grown so much in that time that they know the me that I used to be, and they don't want to know the new me either. They're very committed to this old version of me. And so it's difficult for me to sort of say, listen, I'm a whole new person now. you don't really know the new me, because there's that fear of rejection. Are my parents going to be okay with me, being more assertive? Are they going to be okay with me saying, no, I don't really want to do that? Or saying, hey, I'm not okay with the plans that we made, or I'm not okay with this conversation. Are my friends going to reject me for those things? I have some friends who are, it seems like a lot of my friends, because, I'm kind of getting old to be single, I guess, and never been married. So most of my friends are married and they have kids. And a lot of times when we get together, they want it to be like a family thing. So they'll bring their kids and their husband, and then there's me, and I'm like the third wheel, and I feel super awkward because there's nobody for me to bring. And I hate being in that situation. But it's been okay for so long. Some of my friends, I've been friends with them for 10 years and they've always had kids and they've always been married. So it's always been okay. But there's this fear that I had to get past of saying, I really don't want to be included in your family outing. Can just you and I have kids? Or can you and I just have dinner, have coffee or something? Like, can you not bring your kids? Is that okay? But there's a fear of rejection there, right? But I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. Maybe write it down so you can think about it later. What would your life look like if you could tolerate being rejected? How would it change? How would your life change? What would you change if you could tolerate being rejected, if you weren't afraid of being rejected, if you were just able to stand up and say, listen, you know, I love you. I know we're really good friends, but I don't want to have dinner with your family. How would it change? So then the next step after that rejection is expansion. We talked about how happiness is like a muscle that you have to expand, right? And it takes a continual practice in order to expand it, right? It takes an awareness. And this expansion isn't just for happiness. It's for a lot of things in your life. It could be bringing better energy into your life. There are levels of energy, right? So when you live in fear and some of the lower emotions, when you live with a lot of anger, with resentment, then you have a different energy about you. If you focus more on happiness and joy and some of the better emotions, you have a different type of energy about you, a more attractive type of energy, a happier energy, where people are actually more attracted to you. And that's when a lot of people talk about, the laws of attraction and about manifesting things. If you want good things to come from you, then you have to project this good energy, this happier energy about yourself, right? That's part of the expansion. That's part of the healing process in your life too. Part of the removing the learned behaviors and focusing on who you truly are as a person. And so what helps you with that expansion and what helps you sustain part of the expansion? Well, it's a continual practice. It's being aware, it's knowing what you're doing. And some of those things come from things like meditation. I did a meditation challenge last month. I think Gabby Bernstein had one. It started like August 1st. It doesn't seem like August has been a month ago already, but I was kind of like skeptical about it because a lot of people that I spend time around now, they talk about meditation, and it's never been really a part of my life. And so I was super skeptical. And the whole idea of just clearing thoughts out of my head for me was like, I don't know if I could do that. Like, do I have to do it by myself? Like, can somebody sit with me and walk me through that? So when Gabby Bernstein was talking about this meditation challenge, she had meditations for every single day of the challenge. And it was like, okay, well, that feels a lot better. That feels safer. At least there's somebody, I mean, she's not actually physically in my house, but it kind of seems that way. She's sending me recordings every single day. So I know what to do. I know what to expect. And there were different kinds of meditations. So if I didn't like one of them or one of them felt kind of weird, then I could just do a different one that day. And I'm shocked and surprised how much it makes such a huge difference in my life. Yeah, Esther said, I did the 21-day meditation challenge. Always struggled with meditating, but Gabby is amazing. She is very much amazing. And it makes such a huge difference with the energy that we have too, with staying in the happiness and the joy feeling. I think that's what made a huge difference for me today when I was staying in that feeling, because it was like I had practice, right? I had this continual practice that I'm doing every single morning, this commitment that I made to myself. And then when you have, so we talked about getting past the fear, the resistance, into the expansion, right? And then the third step is to take action. You can make a commitment to yourself. You can realize what the problem is, and you can also realize what the solution is. But you also have to take action, because all of the planning in the world isn't going to make a difference. You can't outthink the feelings that you have. You can't outthink the change. I was just doing an Instagram live. I do a book club every single Thursday at 7:00. And we're talking about my book, which is the INFJ user guide. And we were talking about the ni-ti loop, which is like your heart and your mind fighting each other, right? And the only way to get out of that, like your intuition and your feeling is telling you, you should really do this. And then your head is saying, oh, that doesn't make logical sense. Like, what are you thinking? And so you just go round and round with this, looking for the logic and the reasoning in your intuition and in your gut feeling. And a lot of times it's never, like, you're never going to find it. And the only way to get out of that planning mode, that fighting in your head, is to take action. You just have to make a decision and do something. I'm looking at the comments here. I've always thought meditation to be focusing on something or magnifying a thought, almost circling into it, not being without thought. Meditation is the insight, the aha moment, the decision. Yes. Well, I've heard some people say that it's like to empty your mind. It is, and that's really a wrong description of it. You're right. Meditation is more of like focusing on one thought, focusing on one thing, focusing on one concept. There's actually a lot of it in yoga. I did yoga for a long time because it helps people with depression. It's something that you have to do like all the time in order to help if you have depression. But yoga does kind of the same thing. There are parts of it where you focus on a certain part of your body, where you focus on a certain type of movement. And then the yoga teacher that I had was actually really great because she did these, I don't know what the right word for it is, but she had like these readings and these mantras and stuff that she would do before and then after the practice. And then a lot of times she would do like, I think it's called yoga nidra, where you would spend like time and like at the end where you're just sort of laying flat, and she would talk about some things and play some music. And it was always really hard for me not to fall asleep during that time because I always had trouble sleeping, but in that space at the end of a yoga class, I could totally go to sleep like in a second. Yes, Esther, there are different types of meditations, and even through the meditation challenge that Gabby did, there are different types of meditations every single day. So one of them that I did recently was about focusing on gratitude, and so like focusing on even really simple things. Another one that I focused on was like or another one that I've done is like a morning mantra that is just kind of like positive affirmations for the day. So there are different types. And I know I listened to one that was like focusing on different types of your body. That kind of reminded me, well, I guess I've done some hypnosis too. And hypnosis has that aspect of like focusing on different parts of your body and relaxing, kind of like how yoga does, where you relax different parts of your body. Okay, so you have to take action, right? You can't you can't outthink something. If you actually want to make a change, make a difference in your life, you have to take action. One of the things that really strikes me, especially about our personality, and I've noticed this a lot in my life, we talked about how your personality, part of it you're born with and part of it is learned behaviors. We become like the people that we spend the most time with. I'm sure you've probably heard this. Your parents probably told you it, especially if you had like a friend who they weren't too crazy about and they were like, you know what? If you spend too much time with them, you're going to become like them. But it's actually really, really true. you notice that you start to pick up habits of other people. My parents were always teasing me that I went to England for 3 months, and they kept telling me, like, you're going to pick up some of the habits of those people. You're going to start talking like them. You're going to pick up their accent. And I thought it was the craziest thing in the world, because there was never a time where I was more focused on what my accent sounded like than when I was surrounded by people who didn't talk like me. I think the only thing that I picked up when I was in England was the lady that I was staying with used to say, "I can't be bothered." And I was like, oh, that's awesome. She would say, like, "I should do the dishes, but I can't be bothered." Or, "I should go to the store, but I really can't be bothered today." I'm like, yeah, I love that. That's totally awesome. My parents also told me when I moved to Boston, they're like, well, you're going to pick up the Boston accent, because if you're not from the United States, there are parts of the United States that have very specific, distinct accents, and Boston is one of them. It's very different from other parts of the United States. And I don't think that I've picked up a lot of it. One of the things that Bostonians say is wicked. And wicked is like, it's like a lot. So, or it's like very. So if you were talking about somebody, people would say, well, you're very smart. In Boston, they would say, well, you're wicked smart. I've noticed that I say it sometimes, but I think that's the only thing. So when you're talking about making a change in your life, though, you become like the people that you spend the most time around, right? So think about the 3 or the 5 people that you spend the most time around. Are they people who lift you up? Are they people who are a positive influence on your life? Are they people who you aspire to be like? Or are they people who maybe criticize you a lot? Or maybe they're not really supportive? Maybe they see your potential and they're scared of it. They know that you could do a lot more and they don't want you to leave. There are a lot of people who send me messages, and I think a lot of times, especially with our friends, we get stuck in like the need to loop that we were talking about, right? Your intuition, your gut feeling is telling you something, and logic is telling you something else. Like, I've had friends that I've been friends with for a long time, and they're like, it's like, I've been friends with this person for 10 years, and that's a lot, but then it's like, I just don't feel good around them. I don't feel, when we talk, they talk a lot, and they don't really ask me about a lot of things. They ask me to do a lot of things, but then they don't want to know about my life. It's not like a reciprocal relationship. It's just kind of, it's not great. Is that the kind of person that you really want to be spending your time around? I've been spending more of my time around people who I aspire to be like. I've mentioned a few times, I'm taking a course that's about personal development and also kind of about business too. And it's been really, really amazing to be in a space with somebody who I aspire to be like. They're like 2 live videos a week, and most of them are like 2 hours long. So you get so much energy and so much inspiration. It's like, it's almost over, and I'm like so disappointed, because that has become something that I look forward to, and it's like something that I want to keep going with, right? And then being around other people who are in that same space, people who have become really good friends of mine, because they're there for the same reason, and they're interested in that energy. They're interested in that, in taking action, in making a change in their life. And it makes this huge difference, right? It's one of those few things that you can control that will lift you up on a continual basis. Esther says, I just blocked someone today who was doing that to me for the past 5 years, taking. Yeah, and that's a difficult process. Esther, I really hope that you're taking some time for yourself, and that I want to say that you're like congratulating yourself. I know that seems like the wrong word in this instance, right? Because it's like you just block somebody out of your life and you're like, maybe it doesn't really feel really good, especially if they were important to you. But you did something that was really courageous, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot from you, right? So I hope that you're taking some special time for yourself. And yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah, giving yourself permission to say no. That's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's courageous, and it makes a huge difference. It feels really icky in the beginning, but you'll be amazed at how much better your life is without people like that. And you're making space for the good people. You're making space for the people who are going to inspire you, who are going to lift you up. As INFJs, I know we only have space in our life for so many people. I always tell people that, like, I don't have a lot of friends. I think I have maybe 5 or 6 friends now. And that's a lot for me. I'm not good at maintaining lots of friendships. So if I needed a new friend, then I would have to make space for one of them, because it's like I can't maintain too many people. I need lots of alone time, and I need lots of quiet time, right? Yeah, so let's review just a little bit. Our personality is made up of 2 different pieces. What we were born with, and then our learned behaviors that come from our parents, usually our parents, a lot of the people who are close to us. A lot of us are looking for our personality type because we want to make a change, right? Whether it's happiness, whether it's courage, whether it's self-love, confidence, whatever it is that you're looking for, there's some kind of change that you want to make. And there are 3 really important things that you need to do for that change, right? Is to get past the fear, the resistance, really a lot of the fear comes down to being afraid of rejection. Look for the expansion in your life. Find a way to make that a daily practice for you, whether it's meditation, yoga, whether it's focusing on gratitude, whether it's just being more present, focusing on things that make you happy. Like the song that I was telling you about. If you find a song, put it on repeat. Anything that gives you joy right now is a great thing. And then take action. You need to take action, because all the planning in the world won't make a difference. Don't overthink it. Just keep going with it. We as INFJs, we have these amazing gifts, so many amazing gifts. And one of them is that we can see a lot farther than most people can see. We can see the possibilities of the future, we can see the hope, and we can see the change. I'm sure you have this vision in your head of the change. I know that I do. I think about a lot of changes that I want to make. And it's almost like preparing yourself for that change, right? Most people don't see it, and they don't get it because they can't see it, but you can see it. And you're here because you know that you're made for more. There's something bigger that you're supposed to do. You need to get past the resistance, to make the change, so that you can get to the next thing that you want to do. But you can't do that thing if you don't have the courage and the confidence and the self-love that you need. I really want to help you do those things. I want to bring them to the front of your consciousness, to something that you're focused on all the time. I want to be that person in your life who inspires you, who can help you through these changes. And if for some reason I am your person, you should give me the opportunity to work with you. I would be so grateful for that. I would love to help you to become yourself, to step into the person that you're supposed to be, to break all of these habits that you have of being you and to really step into your true self. So I created this thing. It's called the Come Home to Yourself Challenge. I'm kind of inspired by Gabby Bernstein's meditation challenge. So I thought 21 days is a perfect time. It was a great time for me to help me get into the habit of doing something new. So I think it'll be a great time for you too. So it's 21 days that it just have like short lessons and exercises to help you break some of these habits of being you and to step into that person that you're supposed to be. And the best part of it is that it's only $37. That's the best part. And the second best thing about it is it's not going to take you very much time every single day. It's going to take you 10 to 15 minutes every single day. Having that commitment, that 10 to 15 minute commitment every single morning, something so small can help you change your life in the most amazing way. I mean, I think about just the little thing that meditation has done for me, just taking a little bit of time to focus on myself has changed everything. Like I said, it changed my focus from, it's Monday to, hey, there's this really cool song I could listen to and I could feel joy all day long. Like I haven't felt that in a long time. It's probably been like pre-pandemic before I felt something like that. And it was probably like a concert day that I felt something like that. So if for some reason I'm your person, I would love to help you to step into who you really are. It's time, like, right? What are we waiting for? We talked about we're waiting for somebody else. Major changes are scary sometimes. And it either feels like there's something that's holding you back or we're just in this waiting pattern. Well, it's time to stop waiting. It's time to start doing. And this will be the perfect thing to give you that extra push that you need, the accountability and the support. So I am going to post the link for it in the comments. I don't even know if it links. So let's hope that it does. If it doesn't, you can copy and paste it. And it will be on my Instagram. I think it's already posted on my Instagram because I scheduled it. It'll be on my website here pretty soon.
I really hope that you enjoyed that workshop as much as I did. And I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the Come Home to Yourself challenge. I'm so excited for this. It's so much wonderful information that's really going to help you step into your true, authentic self. And if that's something that you need, something that you want to be inspired to grow more personally, to have more confidence, to build your courage, then this is definitely something that you need. So here's what you'll get. There are 21 daily lessons that will take less than 10 minutes a day. You'll also get daily emails to keep you on track. There is an exclusive member portal where everything is going to be. There's an exclusive journal that you'll be able to download. There's also an exclusive Facebook community that is full of INFJs just like you. So you'll be able to support each other and hold each other accountable throughout the whole challenge. And then on the last day, there's a live training with me. This challenge is absolutely perfect for you if you're ready to feel good about yourself, if you really want to step into your true, authentic self, to let go of your fear and embrace a calm and contented spirit. If you need more courage and self-confidence, if you really want to attract all of the solutions, the answers that you've been looking for, if you want to release self-judgment and step into self-love, really, really elevate your true, authentic self, this is exactly what you need. You can check it out at infjwoman.com/comehome, and there's a link for it in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate all of your support. I will see you again next week. So you just watched that video and I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you want some more amazing information about INFJs, check out these videos right now. I'll see you there.